brighter. Yeah, you have a newer phone.
All right. Okay, here we go. We're back again.
Okay, so they just had this symposium that you all prepared in Selma, and they're all fired up because it's the election year, right? And so, quick aside though, the symposium, like what was that?
So the symposium was for people who had already gone through the Truth and Purpose, so Educators for Democracy, who are already in the program, to come together to have kind of a mix of a conference and a learning tour. So it was pedagogy, pedagogical kind of exploration, historical exploration. And so we went, the EJI allowed us entry into all three of their spaces the day that it was closed to the public. So it was just us in all of those spaces, along with 13 educators from New Jersey. And then we came together at the building in Selma, and Dr. Uhuru Williams, Dr. Hassan Jeffries from The Ohio State University, and so many others, people within our orbit came and taught them. We talked about African American history. We also talked about how to implement these practices in the classroom. We talked about the kinds of things that we do in fieldwork. Victoria Elias, who is one of the people who helps drive our educators into fieldwork, had a whole session at dinner. It is, I could talk about this for the next several hours. And it was our first time. So there was a bit of trepidation because we didn't know how is this going to turn out. And it was beautiful because they came together, even though many of them didn't know each other because they were on different cohorts, they created a brand new community out of this. To the point where in the text, they were texting when they got home, I miss being with you guys.
Yeah.
It was really sweet. And then right before we leave is the assassination attempt. Right when we get back, Kamala Harris is announced as the new candidate. All of this energy, this kind of craziness at the beginning of it, and then going into this excitement led to them, 2 days after we got back, coming together on Zoom, which you joined that Zoom, so you have a view of what that looked like.
Yeah, they were definitely wanting to take some kind of action that was above and beyond just their teaching.
Yeah.
They wanted to do some kind of political action. So we were talking with them about what that could look like. And what it's going to end up being, most likely, is, did I ever talk to you about this today?
Yeah, we had a meeting this morning.
Okay,
so
like it's going to happen.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, they're really, really excited, and it sounds like you guys put together a very cool thing for the Democratic National Convention.
Yeah, so
each night.
The 4 nights of the Democratic National Convention, which are August 19th to the 22nd, we're going to host. Common Power is. And the Educators for Democracy teams and body of folks are going to host it. Just 4 nights of programming where we're going to start off with a couple hours of community and engagement and some teaching. And then there'll be like one primetime hour where there'll be really major speakers that we'll probably go off and watch on our TVs or wherever we watch, and then come back together as a group and process that and talk about it. So basically kind of 4 hours of programming. It's like our own Common Power Educators for Democracy channel. For 4 nights.
I like that. Right. And the thing I love about each one of them, even more fully, by coming into the program, by coming into the orbit of Common Power, by meeting each other, each one you can watch them develop into understanding their power and their role as leaders in their communities. They came in as leaders. They have gone back into their communities as these kinds of massively empowered leaders. And they see it, and they come to us with ideas.
They do. I know they do. And that catalyzes us.
Totally.
Right?
Then we're like, we got to do everything we can to support them and to get more educators.
Exactly. It's like when an athlete comes to their coach and says, Coach, I'd like to do a little extra work or something. You're like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
No problem. Exactly.
Okay. So we're going to do this event on Tuesday that we're calling No More Moms for Liberty, Time for Educators for Democracy. There's a specific reference in there to this organization called Moms for Liberty. Okay. So you want to talk about them?
I can say a little and you can say a little.
Okay.
We know that so we see the book bans across the country, which are instituted both by politicians and by these Moms for Liberty. And the other thing that they're doing, they're trying to remove anything that they consider quote unquote divisive concepts in schools, right? And so that means for them trying to get rid of any references to African American history, to gender studies, things like of that nature, things that they have charged, and these are their own words, make young white children feel uncomfortable. And so many of the Moms for Liberty, then they're not only going to the school boards to petition for these things, they're running for school boards. And some of them are winning. Some of them are getting defeated too. And it speaks to one of the things that we always talk about is the importance of local elections. That we can go out and defeat people who are trying to quell not only truth, but make children feel like they're not valued who fall into the groups that they're targeting, LGBTQIA plus students, African American students. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do, and to show this exists, but here's a remedy to that.
And so they're mostly white women from around the country that have leveraged their status and access to power to help pass these laws, force these book bans, get teachers fired, all kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
And they call
get
themselves
librarians investigated by local authorities.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
And they go by the name of Moms for Liberty.
Yeah.
They've been politically influential in this country. And Educators for Democracy, this Common Power, this Institute for Common Power program, is it's a counter, is what it is.
Definitely.
It didn't start out with that intention.
No.
Because we started out with we want to educate and just bring people into better knowledge of this history.
Right.
But they now want to take more action.
Oh, that's them. To be clear, when I said that a third of them go and knock on doors, that is not a requirement for them to go on the learning tours at all. We just bring them on those learning tours. They're accepted, they write an application. They then say, I want to go knock on those doors.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're coming to us to be involved, to postcard, to phone call, to go knock on doors, to teach, to be a part of this is them being kind of catalyzed into this kind of action.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and they are it's like they're finding their political power, their political voice here, right?
Do you want to hear something really beautiful from the symposium?
Yeah.
One of the things that our very own Dr. Devin Geary did was in one of her workshops was have them kind of come together and talk about a moment in their life where they feel like they belonged. Do you know what that moment was for so many of them that they vocalized? Going on the first learning tour.
Really?
Yeah. That has brought them into community. And it was a very open-ended, just anything in your life. And that's what a lot of them cited.
Because they don't have that kind of community rooted in their school districts or their schools.
No, and now they find a community of educators who not only can they share lesson plans, and then they give us lesson plans and we post them on the website, but also people who share their values, their understanding of how they want to impact their students in their communities.
Yeah.
So, when I'm hearing us talk about it, I know it sounds like it's not actually possible and it's too good. This is beyond anything we thought would happen, and it did, and it's incredible, and so we're just leaning in as much as possible.
Yeah, and I think Common Power as an organization is that's kind of the story of Common Power.
Yes.
It's like there's a group of people that said we're going to try to do something, and we think it might do X, and it turns out that it not only does X, it does Y, Z, A, B, C as well,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
And it changes our lives and the people's lives that are part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to do an event on Tuesday that's going to celebrate this program. And we're going to share this report with you all about it. And we're going to ask you for your support too, okay? The program itself is funded entirely by donors and by family-based grants. So it's about $2,500 to send an educator on one of these trips. When they come back, they can apply for an Education to Action grant to enrich their teaching, which can be up to $1,000.
Up to $1,000, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And then they also lead a program, and I want to end here. They lead a program that is for high school students called Scholars in Motion.
Right. Scholars in Motion is a program, was one of our earliest programs when we started the Institute, that is designed for students who live in government subsidized housing. So what people refer to more colloquially as housing projects. And so this is for kids who don't have the same kinds of access to get to college that other kids do. And so we provide tutoring, mentoring, SAT prep. They go on college journeys. In the summer, they have a program where they community build. And it has been an incredible program. We have had a 100% graduation rate. All of the kids have gone to college, and 90% of them who've now gone to college have gotten full merit or presidential scholarships.
Wow.
And so we have helped do that. And we have a branch in Selma. We have a branch in Frederick, Maryland. Ivory, I see you. He wants to do a branch in Ohio. So we'll talk about that. And so it is our educator ambassadors who are running these programs now.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have some of our college students who are working as interns or as tutors in the program too.
Wow. And it doesn't need to be said, but I do want to say it, that we bring and welcome everybody into Educators for Democracy and into Scholars in Motion, but we are particularly invested in educating certain people too, right? Certain demographics.
Well, and by virtue of the way that structural racism and inequality works in this country, the vast majority of people who live in many of the subsidized housing projects are BIPOC people.
Yes.
And so most of our students are BIPOC youth.
Yeah, and then among the educators, a good chunk of them are too, right?
Yeah, and that's interesting because initially it wasn't so much like that. We had very little diversity, but by this kind of word of mouth, we are probably at least a half BIPOC folks coming on this next journey.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because we also get a lot of African American men, and they are so underrepresented in K through 12 education that it feels like such an honor for us that they're applying to the program and that we can do what we can do to support them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Educators for Democracy is this great program. It's got educational impact, it's got organizational impact because of all the things they bring to the organization, and it's got increasingly growing political impact.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you join us Tuesday to kind of see some of this in action. We'd love for you to read the report, look at the report, register for the Tuesday event, provide some donation support for us. All of it goes to supporting these teachers, these educators, and their work.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're teachers at our hearts.
Yeah.
That's what we are. And so to be able to teach other teachers is the best, isn't it?
It is the best. You know, if we add up the math, collectively we have over half a century of experience.
Oh, we do?
Like 60 years or something.
Okay.
Crazy. I don't know how when we look so young.
I know.
It's impossible.
Totally.
But yes.
Yes, I've always not had this much hair, okay? It's always been the case. So thank you all so much. This is a little window into the background of Common Power and our educational work. Looking forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Okay?
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. See you Tuesday.
Thanks.
Bye.